Did you know that there's a word for the fear of running out of books to read? If you know the answer or you would like to make a guess, please let me know in the comments below, and when we get to the end of the video, I will tell you the answer. Today, I'm going to do the Quarter Year Crisis book tag by Roisin's Reading, who I will have linked below. How many books have I read so far this year? I have read 13 books, but I am so close on so many more. I normally don't like to have a lot of books that I'm reading at once, but right now I do. I'm reading a book by myself. I'm reading a book to my children. My husband and I have an audio book going while we cook that we discuss, and then my husband is also reading a book to all of us as a family. So there's a lot going on, so I'll be able to add a lot more to this very shortly. Is there a book that is going to be one of my 2022 favorites? Yes, I have found a book, and my favorite so far is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is a story about Addie LaRue, who lived in the 1700s. She made a Faustian bargain in which she would never die, but she would be forgotten by everyone who met her. So the second she is out of their line of sight, they forget that they have ever seen her, which allows her to do some pretty interesting things, and it also creates this situation in which she is trying desperately to leave her mark on the world. One day in a bookstore, she meets a man who does remember her. This is the first book by V.E. Schwab that I have ever read, and I found her writing in this book to be very almost poetic. It was beautifully written. The words felt lyrical in my mind as I was reading them. Before I ever picked this book up, I felt strongly that I would like it. I've mentioned in a previous video how much I love time travel, and while this book does not have time travel in it per se, it is about a woman who's living for hundreds and hundreds of years. So in a sense, she is traveling through time. I think the thing that I love so much about time travel is that for me, it is true escapism. When I was little, my family went bankrupt when I was in middle school, and so our house was foreclosed upon, our car was repossessed, and I was reading at the time a book called Charlotte Sometimes by Penelope Farmer. In it, a little girl time travels through her bed. It felt like truly being able to escape when you're not only reading a book and getting drawn into the story, but you're getting pulled into a different time and becoming an entirely different person so that you completely leave your current day troubles behind. And ever since then, anything dealing with time in an unconventional way has really gripped me and just drawn me in. My least favorite books of the year is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. When Mariana was young, her family bought an old Victorian house named Bainbury Hall. They got it for a great price because there had been murders in the house and the house did not have a great reputation. They moved into the house and they did not last very long there at all because they claimed that the house was haunted. Her father ended up writing a best-selling book about the haunting of the house, and that has kind of followed her through her whole life. So in this book, Home Before Dark, you are entering Mariana's life at a time when her father has just died and he has left Bainbury Hall to Mariana. She goes back to Bainbury Hall and has absolutely decided that her father had made all of this up. But did he? Is the house haunted? When I have to drive for a long period of time, I always download an audiobook through my library and I listen to it on the road because I'm not a really big fan of driving, and so listening to something like a thriller takes the anxiety away from driving so I can just kind of listen to a story, an engaging story, which is what I figured a thriller would be. But I think I'm finding that thrillers are maybe just not right for me. There are certain twists that I've read and seen in movies that have really shocked me and surprised me, and I didn't see coming, but when you think about it, it makes total sense and it all just kind of clicks and goes together perfectly. But I feel like in the majority of thrillers that I've listened to, it's just not the case. It's almost like you're reading this book and you're guessing and trying to figure things out, and then the actual answer comes from completely out of left field, and you never would have seen it coming, and quite honestly, it doesn't really make sense. I'm just not a big fan, I think, and maybe it's time for me to move away from thrillers. Or, if you have a thriller that you absolutely love and you feel like it had an absolutely wonderful ending, please let me know, because I'm definitely looking for recommendations on what to listen to when I'm driving. My most read so far is definitely middle grade, which is not surprising because, first of all, it is middle grade March, and secondly, I read to my boys quite a lot, and middle grade is what we're reading. So, hands down, middle grade. A book that surprised me. I think I'm gonna have to go with Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and also The Maidens by, I believe it's Alex Michaelides. And that one is another thriller that is revolving around some murders that take place at a university setting. I was surprised that despite their high ratings, I really did not enjoy either one of these. I thought that I liked thrillers, but now I'm not quite so sure. I think I need to do a little bit more digging on that and figure out what's going on there. A book that has come out in 2022 that I'm really looking forward to reading is The Facemakers by Lindsay Fitzharris. This is the true story of a pioneering plastic surgeon who worked on reconstructing the faces of soldiers who were injured during World War I. As someone who's very interested in personal accounts of war and also the medical side of science, this is very much on my radar. One goal that I am succeeding at. This isn't reading per se, but Booktube. I'm proud of myself for putting myself out there, and thank you all for being here and watching and subscribing and supporting me in that. A goal that I need to focus on is listening to more audiobooks in a careful, intentional way. I'm a sculptor. I have a lot of time during the day where I could be listening to audiobooks. What I'm doing doesn't require a lot of brain power. And while daydreaming is a wonderful thing to do, and I have no problem with it, I think it's good, there's a lot of time when I try to listen to audiobooks, but my mind wanders. I'd like to be a little bit more intentional so that when I put on an audiobook, I stay in the story and I listen and I get something out of it, instead of after an hour, I'm just sitting there wondering what I just listened to. Booktubers that are new to me that I'd like to recommend to you are, first, Becky at Teacup the Storyteller. She just has so much enthusiasm for the books that she reviews that it truly is infectious, and she's just a joy to listen to. The second channel, who I will also have linked below, is Carrie Sweetapple, who just has a great sense of humor, and she has really fun videos to watch. So if anybody would like to do this tag, please consider yourself tagged. I can't wait to hear your responses. And abibliophobia is the fear of running out of books to read. Thanks so much. My name is Jillian, and I'll see you in the next one.